Hi, it's Spencer here, and today I'm going to talk about how to place an effective stop loss and how much buffer you need to ensure that the stop loss doesn't get too easily whipsawed, right? Doesn't get too easily hit when the price whipsaws. So first, what is a stop loss? Now, if you recall, when you're in your trading, when you want to place, if let's say you place a buy order here, right, you enter a trade here, right, your stop loss is something that you place below the buy so that it tells the system that if the price drops below this level, you want to get out. So in a way, this is a very effective way for you to limit the amount of risk that you're going to take on the trade, and it can also prevent you from additional losses once the price goes beyond the stop loss point. So what is a buffer? So a buffer, if you look at if you recall taking the public transport, you notice that there's always a certain buffer zone, right, between the train and where the passengers are standing, right, and that is an additional like layer of protection or safety, right, so that you don't get hit by the train. So just like in trading, when you place your stop loss, you don't want to place it too close to the point of entry or to the place or the previous swing highs or lows, because you don't want the price volatility, right, to whipsaw and get you stopped out of your position. So how much buffer to use really depends on the price volatility. So what are the main considerations? First, for stop loss, the main purpose of the stop loss is to help you protect your downside risk. So once you know that you are wrong, it automatically gets you out of the trade, right? So it limits how much loss you are going to take. But the second thing, which most people leave out, is that the stop loss, you must also place it in a way that will keep you in the trade as long as you are not wrong, right? So what you want to avoid is being correct, but yet because of the small price fluctuation or the whipsaw, or when the spread widen, you accidentally get stopped out, right? Even though you are actually still correct, right? So that is something that you want to avoid, which is why you want to have a buffer to account for these fluctuations, right? So let's look at some examples to better illustrate this point. So in the first example, this is clearly a downtrend. So if you were to initiate a short position here, right, you can choose to place your stop loss somewhere around here, right? So the reason why there's quite a big buffer is because if you observe the prior price movements of this counter, you will notice that there's a lot of big fluctuations, counter trend fluctuations, right, and such large spikes on the shadow, right? So just by observing the price, you realize that this is a counter that has generally quite large price volatility. So taking that into account, when you place your stop loss, you want to account for a slightly larger buffer so that you don't get stopped out when you have these price fluctuations. Next, in this counter, you notice that the price is a lot more smooth, meaning you don't have really large price fluctuations as in the previous counter. So if you were to go long over here, you do not need to account for such a large stop loss on your trades, right? So you can go long here, and your stop loss, you don't have to have a really large buffer. So even for the same counter, a lot depends also on the price, the setup which you are trading. So for example, in this setup over here, you can see that you are taking a counter trend trade because the price is going down and you are taking a long, right? So it's sort of a counter trend trade. You are betting on the change of trend. So this is inherently a slightly more risky trade. So therefore, you want to have a larger stop loss and also a larger buffer. So if you compare it to this trade where the trend is already established and you are taking a with trend trade on the pullback, so when you enter long over here, your stop loss is less, right? And also your buffer is less. So if you compare this risk versus this risk, right? You can see that you can afford to take a smaller risk because the setup is better. So to sum up this video, there are two key points. The two key points in deciding how much buffer to use for your stop loss. So the first is that the more volatile the price action, the wider your buffer needs to be, right? So if as in the example we saw, right, if the price fluctuates a lot, you want to leave a larger buffer for your stop loss, and also the more uncertain the setup, right, the wider your buffer needs to be, right? So these are the two key things, right, which you need to take note of when you are deciding how much buffer to leave for your stop loss. So that's all for this video. For more videos and market analysis, please visit us at www.synapsetrading.com, and I'll see you in the next video.